Let's play our game of buy or sell. It has been a season to remember for Drake May. As of right now, May and Matthew Stafford are the favorites to win the NFL's MVP. Who had that at the beginning of the year? You probably could go through 20 quarterbacks before you got to Drake May as predicting winning the MVP. After this season, buy or sell, we will think of Drake May as the best quarterback in the 2024 draft class. Is this buy or sell? He certainly wasn't going in.
All right, for those who don't know, we're talking May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. A lot of interest there, right? A lot of interest there as far as those QBs. He's going to be the best. I mean, this is a question I would normally just take the field, right? Because I'll assume that Jaden Daniels has been really good. While he's hurt now, Caleb Williams, he's getting better and better. I'm still not giving up hope on the other three here as far as Penix, McCarthy, and Nix, although I would certainly have May well above them. So I think for me, it's either Daniels, Williams, it's either May. Isn't this recency bias? Last year we went in, it's Daniels. By far, it's Daniels. Now because he's hurt, hasn't had a good year, it's Drake May. I'll sell this just for the sake of it, Craig, here, but I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah, I'm going to sell. I got Jaden Daniels still. I can't go this far with Drake May. Maybe second best, but it's not even about taking the field. We're having recency bias here. Jaden Daniels, to me, will still be awesome. So next year for Daniels goes back ahead of Drake May.
Fantasy Sports Today, Friday starting at 3 p.m. only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in, everybody. It is a very special edition of In-Game Live Game Day here on SportsGrid. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We are thankful for you tuning in to check out the program and follow along with us here today as we keep you up to date on all of the football action. One score just went final recently in Detroit. The Packers season sweep of the Detroit Lions today, 31-24. The final, the Packers get the win outright as underdogs. The game goes over the total, and the Detroit Lions dropped to 7-5 on the season, and their chances of making the playoffs just took a hit earlier today with the Packers emerging victorious in that one. I am Brady Kannon along with my partner Tom Vecchio. Tom, happy Thanksgiving to you. We are here for about the next 3.5 hours or so, keeping a track not only of the football going on, a lot of good college basketball, one college football game. The midshipmen of Navy will visit the Tigers of Memphis, but all kinds of stuff going on in the world of sports for this wonderful holiday, this Thanksgiving feast we're involved in here today.
Yes, absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving. And we could say that the NFL is the main course, and we have a little bit of college football, actually a good amount of college basketball, giving us some side dishes to take a look at. As you said, we're getting ready for Chiefs-Cowboys. High total, Brady, in this one, 53.5 that we're seeing now. The Cowboys, they are getting 3.5 points at home. This is where the line opened up. It was 3 for a brief moment earlier in the week, but it's back to 3.5. A lot of points expected in this one.
Yeah, and we've seen that total go up. It was just earlier this morning that this was 52.5, and then it ticked to 53, and now pretty much 53.5 across the board for the Chiefs and the Cowboys, expecting some points in this one. The first game of the day, the appetizer, if you will, to continue with your theme there, Tom, between the Packers and the Lions did indeed go over the total. And then we've got the nightcap as well, dessert maybe we'll call it here, the Bengals and the Ravens. The Ravens have won 5 in a row. The Bengals have lost 4 in a row. The Ravens favored in this one by 7.5. This was 7 really for the entire week and just ticked to 7.5 earlier today. The last time I checked the total at 51.5. So all 3 games today with totals above 50. That's a lot of points being expected here on Thanksgiving Day. They're about to kick it off in Big D. Tom, did you have anything going in to this game as far as the side or any prop bets in action?
Yeah, let's get to it. They're doing some pregame, the anthem right now, so we have a few minutes. But Travis Kelce over 54.5 receiving yards is what I like. I will say I've seen some pretty big discrepancies with this number across the industry. He was at 54.5 on DK. He was up at 57.5 on FanDuel. That's not a big difference, but 3 yards. We'll take anything that we can get. The defense for the Cowboys has really struggled against opposing tight ends. We have seen in recent weeks, Trey McBride and Brock Bowers both have solid games against them. The role that Kelce plays overall, I think, is super solid. We're expecting points. I like that. And then finally, Javonte Williams under 16.5 rush attempts. That was sitting at minus 125, a little bit of juice there. The role that he plays is certainly solid, and ultimately there's not a whole lot of competition in the backfield of players that will be taking carries away from Javonte Williams. But when it's all said and done, seeing 20-plus carries from Javonte Williams in back-to-back weeks, that's really the upper end of outcomes for him. He's going to be in the mid to upper teens number, and the Chiefs have a solid run defense when it's all said and done. I expect them to be good on the ground today, just not going for 20 carries and 100-plus yards. That's just not his role in this game.
Both the Chiefs and the Cowboys are coming off of very big wins. The Chiefs getting really a must win over the Indianapolis Colts at Arrowhead Stadium last week. The Cowboys at home for the second week in a row. They come off of a big win over their division rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Chiefs at 6-5, and they're in third place in the AFC West division. Dallas is in second place in the NFC East at 5-5-1. They do have some injuries on that offensive line. No Tyler Guyton or Tyler Smith. And then on the secondary end of things, Trayvon Diggs is out for Dallas on the defensive side of the ball. Tom, you talked about this game being back and forth between 3 and 3.5 all week. I made it Chiefs -3, and then when I crunched all my stats, it comes out to Chiefs -3.5. So, I'm right there on the fence where this line has been. I don't really have much of a feeling for the side in the traditional sense, but I did tease the Dallas Cowboys up and over the 10, a 7-point teaser to get them to plus 10.5. And I coupled that with the Baltimore Ravens. So a same day parlay, if you will, the Dallas Cowboys to plus 10.5, the Ravens down to minus just a half point. I believe Dallas can keep this one inside of double digits, if not win the game outright. I don't think the Chiefs are that great. Even though they won that game last week, they were not exceptional. They were awful in the red zone last week. And the Cowboys, I really think, are starting to improve, specifically on defense. They've gotten a lot of players back healthy. They get Quinnen Williams over in the trade with the Jets, and that defense has been much better. I mean, it's basically been the worst in the league for the first, 10 weeks of the season. But recently, they have shored up some of the holes on that side of the ball.
Absolutely. And, one of the conversations that we always have, one of the talking points, I was thinking, if this game were in Kansas City, what would be the line? And 5.5, I think you'd agree, Brady, right? The 1.5 to 2 points at home for Kansas City, especially. They have a slightly better home field advantage than average. So let's call it 2 points. I think at 5.5, people would be running to the window to bet the Cowboys, given the fact that the Chiefs are not covering lines, those type of lines as of late. Where they won last week, but they won by 3. Wasn't the 3.5. To see them win on the road and cover would surprise me. So to your point, getting points with the Cowboys, I think, is a totally great option. The fact that you're adding it in with the Ravens in a teaser, moving the numbers a bit, I think that is a great way to approach things because, like you said, you don't have a few of things. I mean, if the Chiefs win this game by 3 points, no one's going to be shocked. But that would also mean that they're not covering the 3.5.
Tom, your friend, Mr. Kannon, has gotten into the prop market today for the holiday. We're going to have some fun, some Thanksgiving prop bets. I've got Patrick Mahomes over his rushing yards at 21.5. I mentioned that Cowboy defense seeing some improvement as of late. I think they'll force Mahomes out of the pocket, make him run a little bit, over 21.5 rushing yards. I've got him for an anytime touchdown at plus 450. And if you saw last week against those Eagles, there was a few plays where they called called Dak Prescott's number to run. I thought at one point he was going to run it right in the end zone for a touchdown. He was stopped, I want to say, right around the 1 yard line or so. I think that could be part of the game plan. Again, we know Brian Schottenheimer likes to rush the football. I got Dak Prescott for anytime touchdown at plus 725. So what do you think? You're the prop king. I'm getting involved today. Did I make some good decisions?
Absolutely. Like you said, if you were buying into, partially the Dallas defense being a bit better than it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at the start of the season, seeing Mahomes needing to scramble out of the pocket based on the pressure that Dallas is bringing falls in line with Mahomes running. And also, we have seen games this year where Mahomes leads the team in rushing, not running backs, the duo that they have, Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. It's Mahomes often leading the team. So I think that's totally fine. We're obviously getting these all at plus money. The Dak one is interesting because he scored last week on an anytime touchdown, rushing it in, and just seeing a non-rushing quarterback score in back-to-back weeks would surprise me. I would want to know the number you got on because I assume it's over 2.5 to 1 or close to 3 to 1. That's where I would say it's fine.
Oh no! Anytime touchdown on Dak is better than 7 to 1, plus 725. Yeah. So the odds makers are guessing that he's not going to make it 2 weeks in a row either. But I think they figured that into the game plan again. I think that was something that Brian Schottenheimer meant to do. That was purposeful last week against the Eagles. And I think it's very possible that we'll see that again. And, as a guy that is backing Javonte Williams under his number of attempts, you'd like to see more carries out of Dak Prescott.
Absolutely. Javonte, again, he's been super solid this year for them when it's all said and done. Him having 18 or 20, I think that's not in the game plan today. Dak rushing, I can get there.
Well, they're about to kick it off. They will probably kick off when we go to commercial here, and we'll have a live football game. Game number 2 of 3 for your Thanksgiving NFL trifecta. We'll run through all the action here for you throughout the afternoon on in-game live game day on SportsGrid.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Well, Well, a lot has happened there in just a couple of minutes of football while we were away at the break. The Dallas Cowboys did get the ball first, Kansas City kicking the ball off to Dak Prescott and company. Tom, you had failed to mention that you did have a prop bet that CeeDee Lamb would catch a pass on the opening drive, and that one hit. You're running to the window with that one, but no good for the Cowboys, as immediately following that play, Dak Prescott turns the ball over. He throws an interception, and it's immediate scoring opportunity for Kansas City here as they are into Cowboy territory, facing 2nd and 1 on the Dallas 28-yard line, and they jump to 7.5-point favorites now in the live market, and your total jumps up as well, which is kind of interesting here, all the way to 57.5. Remember, this closed at game time 53.5, and here we have one team basically at the same point of the first quarter that you would have had if Dallas's drive had continued, but yet they've moved this total up by 4 points to 57.5 now, and it looks like Kansas City's in the end zone. 7-0. The extra point is good. Patrick Mahomes and company on the board first. Do you know who scored that one, Tom?
It is a 27-yard pass to Rashee Rice. The Chiefs are off and running. Mahomes is 2 of 2 to start. You know, a lot of people were talking about Mahomes. He's from Texas, has traditionally put up big numbers, A, when he's indoors, or B, when he happens to be visiting Texas. So, a little hometown start for Mahomes and the Chiefs. They get the pick. They're off and running. Rice has a touchdown, and we have a live total that Brady, as you said, jumps up to 57.5. If you are backing the over, which has always been popular on Thanksgiving, we are off to a great start. I should say you are off to a great start if you're backing the over.
Yeah, I have to believe the books are not liking such a quick score like that. They already hit the over in the early game. Detroit and Green Bay got to 55 total points, and now this one off to an over-trending start here with a quick score in just 2 minutes gone by of game time here in the first quarter. We've got 13 minutes left here in the first quarter. It's already 7-0 in favor of the Chiefs. They will be kicking it off. Dallas will go on offense for the second time already, again, with just 2 minutes off the game clock, and your in-game total at 57.5. And oh, by the way, the over is a favorite at -130 on FanDuel. What do you think, Tom? What's your initial reaction? Obviously, we've got a ton of football left here. Do you see this being a runaway Kansas City game? Did any part of you ever think that that was the case? Or do you think, we're going back and forth here all day long?
I thought we'd be back and forth. I thought we'd be back and forth with points. I'm not going to sit here and say I love the 51.5 over. I think that would be more of a lean type of play for me. But to see it fall at 44, I think would, with a 44 final, 24-20, I think that'd be a little too light. So that upper 40s to mid 50s range, I think, is really where we should have been living. And, a 31-28 final puts us right at that number in terms of the spread. It would put us over the game. But I don't think that should be too much of a surprise where the Chiefs, they've been struggling on offense, and the Cowboys have been, let's just say, trending up in defense. They played a great game against the Raiders, not a tough, opponent when it's all said and done. They played a really solid game against the Eagles, although they've had their offensive struggles. For the Eagles, they've had their offensive struggles. But the Chiefs, are they the type of offense that can actually turn the clock back a little bit on the Cowboys and say, you know what, maybe that was a little bit false impressions that they've given over the past 2 weeks? Meanwhile, the Cowboys still have a great offense when it's all said and done, and they can score 3 or 4 touchdowns of their own. I thought we'd be close, 3-4 point window, but we would be going over when it's all said and done.
And is it a little bit of, a false narrative with the Kansas City Chiefs, because we saw them struggle to score, especially when in the red zone, and they were kind of gifted field position here. Now, obviously a great touchdown there. Dallas, we know, not great against the pass. Again, we talk about their defense improving. It's still not a great unit, but it has gotten healthier and it has gotten better in the last couple of weeks. They shut out the Philadelphia Eagles for the entire second half. last Sunday afternoon. College basketball, a good slate of action today, and you've got St. Mary's and Virginia Tech with the Gales up by 5 points, 69-64. Just about a minute and a half left in regulation there with St. Mary's out on top. They're 5.5-point favorites in the live market. TCU and Florida, the Horned Frogs and the Gators, the battle of the reptiles here, a good one with the defending national champs trying to hang on for their lives here. 61-60. Florida out on top, and they were a double-digit favorite coming into this game, but they have not looked like the same Florida team that cut down the nets last season. 61-60 with about 9.5 minutes left in the second half there. That one taking place in San Diego. North Carolina and Michigan State, this one going down in the state of Florida, Fort Myers to be exact, and they are just underway, about 12 minutes left in the first half here with Michigan State on top, 13-12, and then also Nevada and Washington just getting underway. This one taking place in Palm Springs, California. A lot of college basketball tournaments going on all over the country on this Thanksgiving holiday. Nevada and Washington, the Huskies currently up on the Wolfpack 8-5, just a couple of minutes in, or actually about 7 minutes in to the first half there. We'll be covering all the college basketball and the NFL football for you. Of course, college football later on this evening as well, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, an American Conference battle between a couple of teams that are in first place, and that is Memphis and Navy, with the Tigers at about a 3.5-point favorite. We'll get into that one eventually before we shut down the show and get our thoughts on what we might do as far as a bet in that game. 7-0 Kansas City, and Dallas has the ball. Looks like a penalty. Nothing new for the Cowboys, one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to penalties. They have not improved a whole lot in that regard. 1st and 15 from their own 35-yard line for Dallas. They are a 7.5-point underdog in the live market. 57.5 is your total. No change with Dallas getting the ball. No change in the live market yet, Tom.
No, nothing. Little thing that sets them back on the penalty, but 57.5 is a super high number. Brady, we're eventually going to have the conversation of where do we look for a live under potentially. If you have an over, we could look for a middle opportunity, whatever it might be.
We will see. Maybe that opportunity will present itself when we come back on the other side.
Oh boy, oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. Welcome back into In-Game Live Game Day here on SportsGrid. Brady Kannon and Tom Vecchio with you on this Thanksgiving afternoon. We are thankful for you tuning in as we walk you through the football, the college basketball, good sports action as always on this Thanksgiving weekend. Checking out the football game, the Dallas Cowboys now with their second possession. Dak Prescott threw an interception on the first possession. Kansas City turned that into a touchdown. 7-0 Chiefs have the early lead. Rashee Rice with the first touchdown of the game. Your in-game total moved to 57.5, and the Chiefs instantly became 7.5-point favorites in the live market. Now Dallas moving the ball into Kansas City territory, 1st and 10 from the Chiefs' 29-yard line. Still just under 9 minutes left in this first quarter. So, Tom, you mentioned it when we went to break there, that maybe we'll find an opportunity here. If this total really balloons quickly with some early scoring, we may find ourselves with an opportunity to bet the in-game under the total.
Absolutely. We do have a commercial timeout. I believe it's for an injury, but the Cowboys are moving the ball. They're approaching red zone territory. You know, if they come away with points, I would say obviously a touchdown would put things in a better spot. But Brady, we could be looking at a 60 total. And if you have an under 60, 61.5, whatever it might be, and you grab the over 51.5, which the number was a little bit earlier in the week, or 52, you know, a 10-point window is good. Obviously, we would like more, but we are approaching things to get to a flying start where I'm not going to say we're going to see an upper 60s total, but we do have to have the conversation of where's the appropriate time to look for a buy-in spot, or there may just not be an appropriate time. If it hovers around 57 or 56 the entire game, there's just no opportunity to get that middle.
Well, the game closed at 53.5, and when Kansas City got that early score, again, only about 2 minutes into the first quarter, it jumped by 4 points to 57.5. I would think it's probably going to jump another 3 or 4 points if Dallas gets one here pretty quick. If they are able to tie this up at 7 apiece, I think we're probably looking at 61.5 for your in-game total. Yeah. And I tell you what, I wouldn't want to go under yet, because I think Dallas doesn't feel comfortable unless they're scoring 30 points, right? And you know, we've talked about this defense being improved, but it's not great. They're, you know, if they score 30, they still might give up 35. So I'm not really comfortable going under a 60 or a 61 if it gets to that point. But I think if we get to a 64 or 65 is maybe the number where I'd want to take a look.
Right. And you know, we don't often talk about key numbers of 64, but, you know, 30, 31, 28, 31, or, you know, 33, 30, like those are common outcomes, or probable outcomes, I should say, not common. But, you know, that would be a spot where you have wiggle room to then operate of common scores, but also enough room where you have that, you know, 10, 12, 13-point gap is what we're really looking for when it's all said and done. Chiefs player on defense comes off the field. They're going to get things going. The Cowboys, that is, on offense as they approach the red zone. And, you know, them picking up points with a Javonte screen, I think you're right, Brady. I think it plays it to how they are, not how they want to win games, but how they win games simply. Like, they don't win games 20-10, 20-17. If they win, they're going to be scoring points, but they're also going to be giving up points. So everything has to be adjusted for that as we see a 58.5 pop up on the board.
Yeah, 58.5 is your live number as Dallas gets it inside the 20-yard line of Kansas City. Now facing 2nd and 13 as they go backwards. 2nd and 13 from the 18-yard line of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they dip down also to 6.5-point favorites due the Chiefs. They were 7.5-point favorites immediately after that initial score, but now under a touchdown at 6.5 as Dallas tries to keep this drive going and tie up this football game. We're at exactly the halfway point of the first quarter right now. We're going to have Mark Zinno join us at the top of the hour. When we come back, Tom, we'll get his thoughts, see if he played any college basketball. But we do have a pretty good college basketball game getting ready to tip here momentarily, and that is Miami and BYU. It's in the state of Florida. It's not in Coral Gables, but this BYU club, they're a heavy favorite on the road, 7.5 or 8 points, and they are the real deal. I know a lot of people that expect them or consider them a top 10, top 15 team in the country. Not really the case for Miami.
Right, BYU, we can get into this on the other side of the break, but BYU right now, they are top 30 in KenPom in both offense and defensive rating. Miami's good. They're not necessarily at that level, but to see them as the favorite should be the way we go about things. Also, to see points in this game won't be a surprise.
We will see. That total, last I looked, was about 165.5. We'll have Mark Zinno get his thoughts on the football and the basketball on the other side. Hour number 2 of In-Game.
Oh boy, oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They loved Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. Welcome back. It is In-Game Live Game Day here on SportsGrid. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there joining us. And our first guest is now joining us. A happy Thanksgiving to him as well. That is Mark Zinno, our friend that you see and hear all the time here on the network. I know you're just about to sit down to dinner, Mark, so we won't keep you too long. But thank you so much for making time for us on this holiday. We've got a good football game. We had a good football game earlier today, a good one so far here in Dallas. Dallas just tying it up up with a CD Lamb touchdown pass and catch from Dak Prescott. It is 7 apiece. Dallas kicking back off to Kansas City. Dallas now a 4.5-point dog in the live market. The total up to 60.5. Some of your thoughts on this game coming in, and did you have any action before kickoff, Mark?
I mean, I know it was square as all get out, but the over just was the only thing I could really get to the window on here. I mean, look, when you're given the fact that Dallas's offense is what it is and their defense is what it is, which isn't very good at this point in time, you have to sort of look for where things can explode. And the Chiefs last week, for a escape win over the Colts, they kicked 5 field goals, guys. Their offense was probably better than what the total score said at the end of the game. So I believe that they'll be able to score enough here on Dallas. And in reality, the Chiefs defense, which is very good at home, is not as stout on the road. And this is going up against one of the top offenses in the league, as we've seen at Dallas be able to strike back with some early scores here and some quick playability. So I know it's square. I mean, I lean on Dallas as far as the plus 3.5 pregame. Didn't get to the window on that, but the over is what my play was.
If we flip over to tonight, it's a bit of an interesting circumstance where Joe Burrow's coming back. We don't know how he's going to look. T. Higgins is not going to play. Their offense just isn't going to be at full strength. And we've seen the line at 7.5, also a very high total in the low 50s. Any thoughts on this game? Because the Ravens have been winning, but they really haven't been impressive wins as of late.
I laid the 7 with the Ravens, guys, and I do it with a lot of confidence. I mean, in reality, like, if this was Joe Flacco playing and this spread was 8.5, would you think literally any different about this game? I mean, Joe Burrow has had 3 days of practice with the ones. He wasn't practicing with the ones last week because Joe Flacco was getting ready to play a game. So it's a short week. There's travel involved. He's had basically 3 days of practice to get ready with the offense. There's no T. Higgins. This is a Ravens defense that over the last 3 or 4 weeks, when it started to get healthier, has played a ton better. And oh, by the way, guys, Joe Burrow cannot fix this Bengals defense, which by statistical measure is the worst DVOA of any defense in history of the NFL. The Ravens offense starting to come together. They'll be able to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Hopefully Lamar Jackson will be able to get things going in the pass game. But this is, in reality, a Ravens offense here that should have no problem putting up 30 against this team. If they don't, guess what? They're not covering. They might not be in position to win the game outright. So, you know, I think when it all comes down to it, this is a spot here for the Ravens to wake up and get a good win here at home. And I don't know that Joe Burrow really is going to affect this. I think there's an overinflation in the line movement with Joe Burrow coming back that I don't really trust.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mark. I felt that there would kind of be a public reaction to like, oh my gosh, Joe Burrow's coming back. You know, I'm going to bet over on his props and, you know, he's come to save all of our problems. Well, like you allude to, he doesn't play defense. And whether it's he or Joe Flacco, they're not going to help that defense. I made this number 9.5, not expecting Burrow to be in the game. Yeah. And I found it a little odd that it was only adjusted to 7 when it was announced that he was going to play. You know, I thought it might go to 4.5 or something like that, but apparently the odds makers, you know, are kind of on the same page with you and I that, again, there is a much bigger picture here than just Joe Burrow coming back to try and help this offense, who, oh, by the way, is without T. Higgins as well.
Yeah, I just think it's an overreaction and overinflation here with the line movement. There's not enough Joe Burrow is going to be able to do in this game in his first game back. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but just in reality, there's just not enough for me to believe that the Ravens all of a sudden are going to fold the hand here. With the Ravens knowing every game they're playing here on out as a playoff game if they want to win this thing. And with the shot for them to take, you know, a full division lead here, a game in the division and everything else and work their way back, this is a spot here where the Ravens at home at night usually excel in. John Harbaugh and company are very good and very well prepared on a short week. And as we've seen, guys, these Thursday night games, I know it's Thanksgiving, but in reality, the Thursday night games have always favored the home team here with not having to travel. And so I think that continues here with the Ravens in dominating fashion.
Now, with one college football game on the menu tonight, Memphis at home, they're laying 3.5, taking on Navy, a little bit of a higher total up at 57.5. Any thoughts on this or tomorrow's NFL game mid-afternoon between the Bears visiting the Eagles?
The only thing I could do with the Thursday night game here in college with Memphis, this thing was at 5.5, and I had no desire to lay it. It's a money line parlay option for me with Memphis. I don't think they're losing the game here. I know Navy has a ton to play for, and they're in line for the American Conference Championship game here. I don't think Memphis is losing this game. I don't want to lay this many points against the Service Academy. So I think there's a money line parlay option. And the best option I came with before the weekend got here on Saturday was Ohio against Buffalo tomorrow. They're laying 7 points there against the Buffalo Bulls rather. And then for the Friday game in the NFL, I'm all over the Eagles. The Bears are going to get exposed. I mean, think of it this way, guys, comparatively speaking. The Bears were a 6.5, 7-point underdog to the Ravens. That was the week when Lamar Jackson practiced all week long and then suddenly on Saturday was ruled out. So now they're playing a better team, a more competent team, even with flaws in the Eagles' offense, on the road, and they're still a 7-point dog here. And this is, oh, by the way, a first-place team in the Chicago Bears that is getting a touchdown from another first-place team. You almost never see the spread this big. Tells you everything you need to know. This is a pound of flesh game for the Eagles coming off a loss last week, and they're going to take it out of the Bears. They're going to win this one by 2 scores at least.
I totally agree with you, Mark. I think this is a complete overreaction, or I can sense that the public is really overreacting to this one. If you see the numbers, most of the bets are on the Chicago Bears because, like you said, they're in first place. Oh, my gosh, they're the Bears. They've won 8 out of 9. This team's not that good. They're very average. And you couple that with an effort last week where everybody got to see the Eagles not score a single point in the second half. The buzz about this offense is struggling. I think this is a get-right spot for the Eagles, and they crush Chicago. 7 is not enough in my book either. I would be headed that direction as well. I like that you're seeing it the same way. I'm not even sure if the Bears make the playoffs.
No, I don't think they're winning the division. That's for sure. But I'll tell you this real quick. If you want a great tease option, tease the Ravens down to -1 and the Eagles down to -1. Put them together. Neither one of those teams, I think, have any shot at losing that home game.
You know, the only reason I didn't do that is because it felt so obvious. I actually teased the Cowboys up and the Ravens down. Great. I do have the Eagles on another teaser. I'm 100% all with you there. Hey, we'll let you get out of here, man. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and make sure you clean your plate. You know, don't try and push aside the peas and the green beans that your grandma made you're not so sure about. You know, be thankful for everything on that plate. All right, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep.
That is Mark Zinno. And clearly on the Eagles and the Ravens, didn't have a great feel for the Chiefs and the Dallas game as far as the side did get on the total here. And, you know, we could say it like Mark said, Tom, it feels like all the square bets here, you know, the favorite and the over and this and that. But I believe those are absolutely the right sides. And by the way, Kansas City facing 4th and goal on the Dallas 2-yard line. The totals actually ticked back down under 60. It got to 61.5, now to 59.5 with Kansas City. Are they lining up for a field goal?
They are not. They went for it on 4th, and they try to run it with Kareem Hunt, who gets stopped. So we're going to see a pretty big correction in the line, Brady. It was 59. That drive comes up empty with not a touchdown, but no points. What are we looking at? 56.5, 57.5. It's going to drop by 2 points, 3 points, and then the spread will adjust somewhere around there. Was that third down that they went for? That was third down. Now it's 4th down. Okay.
And
so
they
it
have a
is
touchdown.
Passing touchdown to Travis Kelce. So we have a 7.5, 62.5 line now.
So they get it done. They score on 4th and goal from the 2-yard line. Your total now at 62.5. Chiefs back out to a 7.5 point pace. We're back with more. We'll break it down for you on the other side. It's in-game live game day on the grid.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
the future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
The first quarter has come to a close, and an electric first quarter indeed down in Arlington, Texas, where the Cowboys are hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City puts another touchdown on the board right at the end of the quarter there on a 4th and goal situation from the Dallas 2-yard line. Travis Kelce catches a pass from Patrick Mahomes to make it 14-7 in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Just about to get underway in the second quarter. They will kick it off back to the Dallas Cowboys, who go back to being a 7.5-point underdog in the live market. And your in-game total now to the highest we've seen it all afternoon at 62.5. And Tom, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm still not comfortable taking an under at this point, even though that's a big number. It's about 9 points higher than where it closed before kickoff here. But the way this is going so far, and we talked about it, I don't know if Dallas is comfortable in a game where they don't score 30-plus points. And I kind of feel like that's where we're going. We're looking at, 34-30 or something like that before this is done.
Exactly right. Not to use the cliche that everyone uses, but like this game looks like a rocket ship. It's just going up and away for the total, for props. Listen, if you're betting overs on props, you got to think that everyone's alive at a certain point for all of their props, or at least most of them. It may get to a point where, Javonte Williams doesn't see a whole lot of carries. He has 4 carries for 5 yards. So A, he's being ineffective, and B, they are playing from behind, so that the game script plus his ineffectiveness against the Chiefs' run defense will force them to not fully abandon the run, but not put him in a spot to have over 16 and a half attempts. So other props in terms of yardage look very alive, Brady, for everyone basically at this point. If you were backing the narrative of Mahomes being back in Texas in a dome, 2 touchdowns on 4 pass completions so far for only 43 yards. Listen, Dak has the 1 interception, but he's up to 78 yards. He is looking at another 275, 300-yard game simply because he has to. Everything looks good for props right now.
Checking the college basketball scoreboard, some really good contests going on right now as we speak. If you're getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner like Mark Zinno was, hopefully you've got a couple of TVs because the football game looks very exciting, and there's 5 college basketball games going on right now that all look good. TCU and Florida, this one going on in San Diego, a tournament. We have another tournament on Thanksgiving week where the Horned Frogs are out in front of the Gators by a bucket. The defending national champion Florida Gators, 77-75, and Florida went into this game as a double-digit favorite. But TCU hanging in there, less than 2 minutes left to go in regulation, 77-75. Horned Frogs. North Carolina and Michigan State. The Spartans went off as about a 1-point favorite in this game, but Carolina took the money. Michigan State was about a 2.5-point favorite or so, maybe as high as 3. And again, the money came in on the Tar Heels. Closing is about a 1-point underdog, but they are down by 6 as we speak. In fact, make that 3, 28-25, just about 2.5 minutes left in the first half. This one going on in the state of Florida. Michigan State up 28-25 on North Carolina, and Michigan State back to where they started as a 2.5-point favorite in the live market. Washington and Nevada, a good game here between the Huskies and the Wolfpack. Just about 3 minutes left in the first half there, 25-22 in favor of Washington, who went off as about a 4-point favorite in that game. They're 6.5-point favorites in the live market. And BYU and Miami, the Hurricanes showing up here, not in Coral Gables, not on their home court, but they are in the state of Florida in Kissimmee, and they are tied at 17 apiece with the BYU Cougars, who came in as a big favorite, kind of a road favorite, so to speak, with with Miami being in their home state of Florida. But 17 apiece right now with 10 minutes left in the first half, just halfway through the first half, and Miami remains a 5.5-point favorite in the live market. Tom, I don't recall this being the case, but we've got all kinds of, Thanksgiving is dominated by football. Meanwhile, there's some really good college basketball game going on.
There is, and one thing we didn't get to pregame or before everything started, but UNC Michigan State, we were looking at a 151 total. It's down to 140.5 at this point. I would say that if we had the time to go into things a little bit more, I would definitely say the under would have been a lean for me. Michigan State, they're super solid on defense. They're 8th in Ken Pom defensive rating right now. UNC, they're sitting at 23rd. This just seems like the traditional kind of blue blood, so to speak, matchup that we wouldn't be seeing these teams out flying and scoring points. Well, a 151.5 total just seemed a touch too high. If we had the games end in the mid-60s, I think that would feel more realistic for this type of matchup, especially a non-conference game in a tournament aspect doesn't give us the best sample size, but I would still lean under.
Yeah, and it's a very traditional game in the sense that we're used to seeing out of these teams a high-powered, pass the basketball, scheme from North Carolina and a veteran-savvy, rebounding, conservative, slow the pace down, Tom Izzo approach for Michigan State. Not a whole lot has changed with the styles of basketball from this 2025 edition for either of these teams. A game coming up at the bottom of the hour, about 10 minutes from now. The Friars of Providence will take on Wisconsin. This one also in San Diego will follow the TCU Florida game. And Providence, they've gotten better offensively, but they still have some problems on defense. And Wisconsin, I think it's the same old Wisconsin, very solid, conservative, half-court basketball that we typically see out of this program year in and year out.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. Last year, Wisconsin, a lot of threes they like to take. Sometimes they live and die by the three. You can knock them down at a great rate. That's awesome to see. You can put up a ton of points quickly, but when they're not hitting them, that's where the offensive inefficiency comes through. So far this season, both teams are playing to the over. Providence is 5-1 to the over. Wisconsin's 4-1 to the over. Wisconsin, they're top 20 when it comes to Ken Pom offense. Providence is sitting at 53. They're also 93rd in defense, Providence, that is, in Ken Pom defensive rating. We could see some points in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close, but I think points would be the first thing to look at.
Wisconsin has not played much tough competition so far early in the year, and their last game, they were blown out by BYU in Salt Lake City by 28 points. Cowboys are on the move, trying to tie up the football game at 14 apiece. Go back in a moment.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
the future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Darren Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. So the drive stalls for the Cowboys at the 31-yard line of Kansas City. They were facing 4th and 3, and they elected for a Brandon Aubrey 48-yard field goal. It is up and good, and the score is now 14-10. So Dallas chips into that margin just a bit. They are down now to 6.5-point underdogs in the live market, and your total does tick up over on the other side of 60 yet again to 61.5, and we've still got over 10 minutes left in the second quarter. 24 points on the board, Tom. I mean, you double that, and we're almost to our pre-kickoff total. So we're absolutely on an over pace. It almost seems like the in-game number of 61.5 is not high enough.
And that's what it's looking like. And the fact that now, some of these numbers are a little bit skewed just because the Chiefs got such amazing field position on their first drive, and they put it in very quickly. But Mahomes is 4 or 5. He has 5 passing attempts. Meanwhile, Prescott is up at 17. So The Chiefs are getting this done in blazing fast fashion, obviously due to field position, just due to some big plays that we're looking at, long runs of 14, 16, 17, long pass of 27, which was the touchdown to Rice. But they are picking up chunk plays. So, as you said before, you would be hard-pressed to take an under at this point. The Cowboys, they can't stop anyone. And we knew this coming in. But if these chunk plays are going to continue, we actually may see lower volume in terms of attempts from Mahomes, but the yards could certainly be there, and the scoring will be there, most importantly.
Isaiah Pacheco is active for the Kansas City Chiefs today. He has 1 carry for 9 yards, to your point, a chunk play there for Pacheco. But it's been Kareem Hunt getting the bulk of the action. I believe he has 4 carries to just 1 for Pacheco. Yeah. I told you pregame I was on Mahomes over his rushing yards prop of 21.5 yards, and he was able to scramble for 16 yards in that first quarter. Nothing added to that yet here in the second frame. But again, 14-10 in favor of Kansas City. 1st and 10, they start on offense from their own 24-yard line with just about 10 minutes left in the second half. And they now jump back to 7.5-point favorites. 61.5 remains your in-game total. It looks like Florida's going to lose for, I believe, the second time this season. Of course, they lost their opener to Arizona right here in Las Vegas. And now they are trailing TCU by 5 points with 10 seconds left to go in San Diego. So the Florida Gators really not the same club as the one that won the national title last year. No Walter Clayton, no Will Richard. They really lost a lot of power on offense, and TCU taking advantage of it here as a big underdog. They're at the half between Michigan State and UNC. Carolina down by 5, 33-28 in favor of Sparty. Washington 34-28 over Nevada. Just about 30 seconds left in the first half there. UNLV right here at home at the Mandalay Bay, the Michelob Ultra Center, where the Las Vegas Aces play. UNLV leading Rutgers by 6 points, 39-33 at the half. And Miami now up on BYU, 22-21 for the Hurricanes with 7.5 minutes left in the first half there. Providence and Wisconsin getting underway momentarily. Wisconsin about a 6.5 point favorite in that one, and that's up from where they were earlier. I believe they were laying about 5.5. They've taken some money. And Kansas City now facing 2nd and 10, almost out to midfield, their own 46-yard line, 9.5 minutes left in the second half. No change in the live market as far as the spread or the total, Tom.
No, and guess what? Another big chunk play to start the drive for the Chiefs. Pass up the seam to Kelsey for 22 yards. As you said, third and 1 coming up after that 2nd and 10. Mahomes is spreading the ball around. Right, he's got the touchdown to Rice, the touchdown to Kelsey. Hollywood Brown is involved. That was Worthy's first catch. Worthy did have a couple running plays, so they are moving the ball with several different pieces on offense, and that's really been always one of the strong suits of Andy Reid in the play calling. Is you could have 4 or 5 different guys on a game out basis contributing to the offense for the Chiefs, and that's what they're doing against a subpar defense.
1st and 10 now from the Dallas 41-yard line. So they are into Cowboy territory. And again, no change in the live market, which I kind of find a little bit surprising here with Kansas City moving the football. Dallas not showing a whole lot of resistance on defense. They really, a field goal feels like you made a bogey on a hole that you have to par. If you're Dallas Cowboys in this football game, settling for a field goal on that last drive, if they can get a field goal out of Kansas City here, that would go a long way. We'll see. We'll let you know when we come back.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They loved Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
So a change in the rhythm of this possession here for the Kansas City Chiefs, who were moving along nicely and had the ball into Dallas territory, but a couple of penalties later, and now they are facing 3rd and 26 from their own 43-yard line. Now, how many times, Tom, have we seen Patrick Mahomes pull a rabbit out of his hat and somehow find Travis Kelce 35 yards down the field and they convert and the drive keeps going? We'll see if that's the case. 14-10 is your current score. Kansas City with the ball, under 7 minutes left to go in the second half, or in the second quarter, I should say. 3rd and 26 from their own 43-yard line is what Kansas City's faced with. They moved to 6.5-point favorites in the live market. They were 7.5, now down to 6.5, and the total has moved to the other side of 60 again, pretty significantly, Tom, down to 58.5.
Yeah, that's a big movement, especially for the pace of this game. You know, it's dropping a point, moving a point, but 3 points or up at 62, dropping 3.5 or 4 points. That is a massive, massive move. And I will say, it's like the flow of this game has been a little bit weird, where we've seen some great plays from Kansas City. Then Dallas steps up on 2 of the 3 plays to start a drive, but then there's a one big chunk play. And then Kansas City gets a penalty, and then there's a good stop by the Cowboys, and then there's another big chunk play for Kansas City. So things are kind of all over the place right now. We are in an injury timeout, but I'm not sold anymore that this game is going to be flying over to 65 points. Ending in the upper 50s, sure, and I know that may not seem like a massive difference, but it going over by 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns actually is a big difference, Brady. And I think we get to 55, maybe not 64.
Yeah. I said that earlier, that 64 would probably be my buy point as far as going under the in-game total. Now, we haven't seen that number pop yet. The highest we've gotten to is 62.5. And even at 62.5, I was not comfortable playing it under, because 34-30 absolutely seems in play to me. And obviously things have changed a little bit here, and this Kansas City drive has stalled. Looks like they're facing 3rd and 26 on their own 43-yard line with just under 7 minutes left to go in the second quarter, getting ready to come back from that injury timeout. But I don't know about you. You mentioned kind of a shift in your opinion there. I still wouldn't want to play. I think maybe 63.5 I could get there, Tom, but 62 or less, I'm not going to touch it.
Right, and this conversation we often have, playing a live total, objectively or as its own bet is one thing. Playing it when you have a live or you have an over, in your pocket, and then looking for middle, those are 2 very different things, right? If you just want some action and you're looking to take a live under on a very high total, understood. But when you're trying for the middle, you don't want to leave yourself not enough wiggle room. You want as much wiggle room as possible. That's why you keep referencing the 64.5 to give yourself, or it's also just a general buy point of where you would want to be looking. So 57.5 now. The Chiefs are punting, and it looks like the Cowboys are going to have a very long field, but they got 6 minutes, and the Chiefs get the ball to start the third quarter. We have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, we sure do. So this is a big drive for Dallas. If they could get a touchdown here and take the lead, they could go into the locker room possibly with an advantage. And that would be big because of exactly what you say, that Kansas City is going to get the ball first in the second half. It would be Dallas's first lead of the entire ball game if they can score a touchdown here. Again, they trail by 4, 14-10. You've got 6 minutes left in the second quarter, and they are at their own 15-yard line facing 1st and 10. They do drop now to 5.5-point underdogs in the live market, and your total drops again, Tom, to 57.5. I tell you, you got to be feeling pretty good right now, even though you and I aren't necessarily comfortable. The more this game goes along without any scoring, if you jumped in at under 62.5, you're probably not feeling too poorly right now.
No, not at all. And if they score a field goal, does the spread move? If they score a touchdown, what does it move to then? Because that's where my mind is going. I don't know if the total would move past 59 if they get just a field goal. 58.5 would maybe feel normal. But if they get a touchdown, that's where we're back up at that 59-60 range, and that's where the spread would move significantly, right? 4.5 point spread isn't that a big of a change if they get a field goal.
Yeah, I probably 4.5 if they get a field goal. That makes sense. I'm not so sure the total wouldn't come down if all they got was a field goal, right? I mean, if they got a touchdown, sure. But I think if they get a field goal, which would make it 14-13, and you never know. I mean, first of all, they got to score. Second of all, there could be time left on the clock for Mahomes to come back and possibly get a Harrison Butker field goal before we go to break. So there's a lot of possibilities that could happen here. But I think with a field goal, you might see the total actually come down. A field goal for the Dallas Cowboys on this drive.
That's right. And if they get a touchdown, I mean, worst case scenario for the Cowboys is they go 3 and out, and then they punt, and Kansas City let's say Kansas City gets a field goal out of it. They go into the half up 17-10, and then they're going to get the ball to start the third. That is worst case scenario if you're backing the Cowboys. So you either want to see a long drive and get 3 points out of it, or long drive, and let's just say that they go for it on 4th down and they turn the ball over. But you don't want to leave any time on the clock for Mahomes to potentially double dip before halftime. Even just a field goal would be disastrous because, frankly, the Chiefs are tearing apart this defense, and there's nothing that's going to be slowing them down at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's worst case scenario for Dallas is the Chiefs to be able to score before or get the last score before halftime and then get the ball coming out on the other side. It's a final in San Diego. TCU upsets Florida. Big upset. They were double-digit underdogs in that one, 84-80, your final. St. Mary's gets by Virginia Tech, 77-66. The Dana Altman battle here in Creighton, Nebraska. Creighton, 76-66 over Oregon. Of course, Dana Altman, now the coach at Oregon, used to coach at Creighton, and the Blue Jays with a 10-point victory there, 76-66. Colorado beats USF, San Francisco 79-69, and VCU falls to Vanderbilt, a top 25 team. The Vanderbilt Commodores, not only in football but also in basketball, they take care of Virginia Commonwealth, 89-74. Carolina and Michigan State are at the half, 33-28 in favor of the Spartans. Washington and Nevada, the Huskies lead the Wolfpack 34-28 at the break. Also UNLV and Rutgers at halftime right here in Las Vegas, 39-33 in favor of the Rebels. And Miami beating BYU right now. They were 7.5 to 8 point underdogs here, playing in the state of Florida. Not at home are the Miami Hurricanes, but in the home state, 26-25, just about a minute and a half left before halftime there. And Western Kentucky out in front of South Florida early in this one, just about 5 minutes in, 13-4 in favor of the Hilltoppers. The Dallas Cowboys have moved it out to their own 36-yard line, 2nd and 3, with about 4.5 minutes now left in the second quarter. And now I'm seeing the line come off the board. We were still at 5.5 point underdogs, but now it's popped back up. 5.5 point dogs, 2nd and 3 from their own 36-yard line. And the total remains unchanged, Tom, 57.5.
Right, they are moving the ball, but Mahomes, Dak has been under some real pressure to start this drive, but they are moving the ball. A little over 4 minutes left. They have some timeout. They have all 3 timeouts. They have the 2-minute warning, so they are in no rush. And I think they don't want to be in a rush because you do not want to leave time for Mahomes to potentially get the ball back. So use the timeouts, use all of the clock, get into scoring range, and get those points on the board before halftime.
That is such a dilemma in today's NFL and the Patrick Mahomes era in the NFL. Like, let's move the ball, but let's not move it too fast because we don't want that guy to get the ball back. 3rd and 3, the Dallas Cowboys on their own 36-yard line. They need to convert here to not get the ball back.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. Well, here's another scenario that I don't think we covered, and that was Dallas scoring really quickly with over 3 minutes left in the second quarter. So who knows? Maybe Dallas will get the ball back again. They are in the lead. Malik Davis, the backup tight end, on the other end of a Dak Prescott toss, and they now have the lead. The extra point is good. 17-14, Dallas over the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, over 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and they are now just 2.5 point underdogs in the live market, and that total, Tom, jumps 6 points. You and I were discussing this, how much it had moved in just a few minutes here to a lower number of 57.5. Dallas gets that quick strike, and bang, it's the highest we've seen all day at 63.5, and we're starting to approach that area where you and I were feeling it's buy time on the under.
Points. That's what we're getting. We got it in the early game. We got it in this game. Who knows what we'll get in the late game. If there was any game that I would say I was most confident in going the under, it'd probably be that late game, but we can get to that a little bit later. 63.5, 2.5, as you said, for the total and the spread right now. There's plenty of time on the clock. That's what it comes down to. That's what, this spread and total is going to be affected by, that we still have a 2-minute warning, and the Chiefs have all 3 timeouts with 3:10 on the clock. Mahomes has done very well moving the ball. I would say that they are also in no rush to score, considering that they do get the ball to start the third quarter. So Brady, a touchdown or a field goal to tie it up for the Chiefs pushes this to 64.5 total, 65.5, maybe 66 if they score a touchdown. They'll jump out to larger favorites. I would say they'd be back up to 6.5 point favorites if they score a touchdown, knowing that they get the ball to start the third.
You've got 31 points on the board right now, and Dallas will be kicking off to Kansas City again with just over 3 minutes left in the second quarter. 31 points on the board right now. That is well over, what the pregame total was prior to kickoff. You were looking at, let's call it 53. Okay, well, if you just double 31, that's 62. That's 9 points higher than where the closing total was in this game. And yet the in-game total is higher than that, higher than the 62. If we just doubled up the points right now, it's at 63.5. And 3 minutes left in this half. Heck, Tom, we could get 2 more scores before this half's over.
I mean, it's certainly possible at this point. Have we only had the one punt in this game? Is
I
that
think
right?
so.
We've only had the
Dallas
one punt.
started with a turnover.
Right.
Dallas kicked a field goal. They've scored 2 touchdowns. Kansas City was the one who punted to Dallas just on their last possession, in fact, when they had and it was basically dictated by penalties.
Right. So we've had all scoring drives essentially, except for the interception to start the game and the one punt from Kansas City. Everything else has been scoring. So, if you are buying into any amount of hoping on the under, you're going to say the offensive efficiency is going to drop at a certain point. They're not going to be scoring this much. Now, obviously, some of that was gifted to the Chiefs with the short field position, but they also have moved the ball efficiently in order to score another time. So there'd be nothing indicating that Dallas is going to slow them down.
I think you bring up a great point, and we often talk about that when we're on doing a show tracking in-game college, or not college, but basketball, whether it be college or pro. I think specifically the NBA, it seems to be more true, or you see it on a more regular basis where one team starts out either really cold or really hot, and then it flips in the second half. If they're real hot, they cool off. If they're real cold, they start to heat up. And I think that's where I want to go here from an in-game standpoint as far as wagering in this football game. I think I'm just going to tie my hands behind the back or wave the white flag for this first half and say, okay, let's just see how this plays out, because I'm done trying to guess how many more scores are going to happen here. I would say let's wait till break, because obviously there are going to be adjustments that are going to be made. And with the way this game has started, we always talk about this as well. Trust the original line. The odds makers would have you believe that it's going to slow down in the second half and it's going to get somewhere close to that original number. Now, it still may beat the original number by 10, but I doubt if we're going to see such a frantic pace in the second half for another 30 minutes of football, Tom.
Right. And, it's talking about the offensive efficiency, the Chiefs are going to score, where is the threshold? When Mark was on before, Mark Zinno, our guest that we had, he was saying that, the Chiefs ended up with a lot of field goals last week. Like, they left points on the table. So to see them have a little bit of positive regression in scoring more tonight should not have been a surprise. Where we reach the breaking point in the bubble, essentially, of where we want to buy back in on the under, that's the critical thing, because it really comes down to the Dallas defense and stop them. Again, I have to say, the Dallas defense at times, it looks like they're putting together half of a drive that's good. A couple plays here, and then it's another big play from Mahomes. A couple plays, all of a sudden it's third and long, Mahomes picks up the first down. It's like, if they can string together more successful defensive plays, that's what you want to be looking for if you're buying into the under.
And right now it is 2nd and 8 for the Kansas City Chiefs, almost at midfield at their own 47-yard line, again, facing 2nd and 8, and we have reached the 2-minute warning. So they will take a timeout here. We'll have a pause in this football game for a moment. Kansas City will come back on offense again from its own 47-yard line, facing 2nd and 8, trailing the Dallas Cowboys 17-14. In the live market, they are down to 2.5-point favorites. That's the lowest they've been the entire contest, and of course they kicked off as 3.5-point favorites. So this is as low as they've been throughout the entire week. Your total is as high as it's been throughout the entire week, or even this game, at 63.5. On the money line, Kansas City at minus 166. Dallas on the money line at plus 130. And I tell you, I think that's interesting, Tom. You've got the Cowboys here out in front. And I know they're an underdog as far as the point spread's concerned, but I see no reason they can't win this game. And plus 130 doesn't feel like such a bad price to say that they will.
They don't, and I absolutely don't disagree with you. The argument against it I would make is that you missed the best possible number, right? You missed the pregame when they were 3.5. The money line would have been higher. And also at one point, they were 7-point underdogs, 6.5, 7-point underdogs. Would have been a much higher line then. As we normally say, we can wait to halftime, and we can wait till the third quarter when the Chiefs get the ball.
Not a bad idea. Halftime's coming up. They're going to come out of the 2-minute warning first. Again, Kansas City with the ball right around midfield.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. this betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. So the Kansas City Chiefs drive is still alive, but now facing 2nd and 10 from the Dallas 43-yard line. 2nd and 10 from the Dallas 43-yard line. Tough spot right there. Not probably quite within Harrison Butker field goal range. That would, of course, be a 60-yarder. They are indoors here in Jerry's World. This is no Brandon Aubrey, though, is Harrison Butker. 44 seconds left on the clock, and it looks like maybe somebody is taking a timeout here because we have a break in the action. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It is in-game live game day here on SportsGrid. Brady Kannon and Tom Vecchio with you, taking you through all of the football action, college basketball as well. And Tom, it's been a very entertaining day as far as football so far. The Green Bay Packers drew first blood and really continued rolling, but Detroit never quite went away until the very end. The Green Bay Packers finish off a season sweep of the Lions, 31-24, the final in what was a very entertaining game. And that's exactly what we have here so far. Dallas up 17-14, 31 points already on the board in an electric first half in Dallas.
A lot of scoring so far. The Chiefs were moving the ball well. They just got hit with an offensive holding penalty, which sets them back to 2nd and 20, despite the fact that they picked up the first down. That is null for the first down. Nice catch by Pacheco and run. They're moved back on this. I'm seeing the lines locked right now, but points, Brady. We saw that in game 1. We're seeing that right now. I'm seeing 27 seconds left on the clock. The Chiefs still have their timeouts, but to your point, they are on the other side of the 50 right now. And they're also not in field goal range. So to see them come away with this drive of over 3 minutes of time with 3 timeouts and the 2 in the morning and come away with no points would be somewhat shocking to me.
Yeah, and this would be a wonderful scenario for the Dallas Cowboys, who would get to go to the locker room with the lead, having scored the final points in the first half, and then Kansas City gets to start with the ball in the second half. So Dallas loves this position if it holds true here. Like you say, under 30 seconds left in the second quarter. Dallas remains a 2.5-point underdog in the live market. Your total dips back down now to the other side of 60 at 58.5 as Kansas City does indeed face 2nd and 20 here. And really their last 2 drives, Toms, have been, grossly impacted by penalties for the Kansas City Chiefs.
It really hasn't. Maybe this is the Cowboys game script now, where they give up points early, just like they did last week versus the Eagles. And they kind of tighten things up as the game goes on, where they're like, maybe just bet against the Cowboys and get a first quarter spread for opposing teams, first quarter money line for opposing teams. But somehow they find their footing and they get the ball rolling on defense, and they get better and better as each drive goes on, because we saw these 2 scores from the Chiefs, but they haven't scored since then. And maybe their defense is turning into a bend but don't break, where they're going to have their flaws and they're not going to be perfect, but they're stepping up when they need to.
I don't know if you're seeing an injury timeout. I don't show that either team has used a timeout yet. They both have the full complement of 3 timeouts. I'm now showing 24 seconds left on the clock. Okay, now I look at my other scoreboard, and now I'm seeing 3rd and 16. So it looks like a 4-yard gain on 2nd and 20 for Kansas City, down to 21 seconds left in the second quarter. 3rd and 16 from the Dallas 49-yard line. And I guess there's a little bit of a situation here, Tom, where you don't want to have to give the ball back to Dallas with any amount of time, that they could possibly line up Brandon Aubrey for what might be a 70-yard field goal try or something, which is not out of his range.
No, I think they would. And if they turned it over and they didn't get the kick, as you always say, is essentially a turnover, a missed field goal. And then Dallas would have, 5 seconds left, 10 seconds left. They take the ball. They try to get 4 yards. They'll just kick it just for the sake of kicking it, because there's no harm in them missing at that point. No time left. But Kansas City's going for it, obviously on 3rd down. How many yards they pick up will be the most important thing as Mahomes scrambles out of the pocket. So this game has been all over the place in the final 3 minutes. We've had penalties. We've had the stoppage. They're moving back. We have another flag right now. I will say, during one of the commercials, Mahomes did pick up a few more rushing yards. So he's up to 2 rushes for 20 yards now, which certainly goes well for you.
Yeah, we like that. We just need to get him over 21.5, and then we have to guard against possible lost yardage with the kneel downs at an end of the game. Maybe it's Dak Prescott who will be kneeling the ball down in a victory stance. We will see. 4th and 16 now for Kansas City at the Dallas 49-yard line. Too long for a field goal. They're going to have to punt it. 16 seconds left in the second half. Dallas on top, 17-14.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in, everybody. It is in-game live game day here on SportsGrid. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining us here on this special holiday. Brady Kannon and Tom Vecchio with you, running through all the football and the college basketball that is going on. And let's not forget about the college hoops. Some really good action in play. Tournaments all over this country with some very good teams in action. The defending national champion Florida Gators were downed by TCU just not long ago in San Diego. It was 84-80, the final. It's halftime in Arlington, Texas at Jerry's World in Big D. The Dallas Cowboys leading the Kansas City Chiefs 17-14 at the break. And now Kansas City, who was a 3.5-point favorite prior to kickoff, is now a 1.5-point favorite at the midway point. And again, trailing in this game by 3. Now let's look at the total. Tom and I have been monitoring this activity all game long. We've got 31 total points in the first half. The first half soars over the total number, and the scoring got started early and often, finally stalled just a little bit really on the Kansas City side, and kind of did it to themselves with penalties on their last couple of drives. But the total closed at 53.5 prior to kickoff, got as high as 63.5 during this game. And now at halftime, Tom, we're at 57.5, kind of in the middle of where we've been and where we started.
Yeah, looking at the drives for these teams, just to try and get a sense of what we've gone through in this first half. Interception to start for Dallas. Then we went touchdown KC, touchdown Dallas, touchdown KC, field goal Dallas, punt KC, touchdown Dallas, punt KC, and then the end of the half. So the Dallas defense has certainly done their part, specifically in the second quarter. The Dallas offense, outside of that first drive, they've scored on every drive. I'm not counting this last drive where they had one play and threw a pass, but they have scored on 3 out of their 4 drives. And Kansas City's only scored on, let's call it, 1 of their real drives because they were gifted field position. It was 2 plays and 37 yards. Outside of that, they've done touchdown, punt for Kansas City. That's really not that inspiring. Let's just call it what it is. It's not that inspiring. Dallas, their defense and their offense are playing great right now.
It's kind of interesting, and I touched on it in our pregame. This game started a few minutes after we came on the air for this show. And I said, let's be real about what happened last week. I still don't think Kansas City is that great. It's not the Kansas City we're used to. They're 6-5. They're in 3rd place in their division. I think they've won the AFC West 9 years in a row. Doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. They might not even make the playoffs. They were awful in the red zone last week. Mark Zinno talked about it, our guest in the first hour. They kicked 5 field goals last week. They did not cover against the Indianapolis Colts. They were 3.5-point favorites. They won by 3. Not a huge deal, but they don't look like the same team that we're used to. And I think it was a little bit of a false impression last week. Like, oh my God, okay, they got a big win. They're back. Here we go again. Now they're a road favorite at Dallas. And I think at the same time, Dallas has slowly but surely been improving, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Nothing great on that side of the ball, but getting better. Not like Cincinnati level where they were for most of the season. The offense has been outstanding all year long. But I felt there was a little bit of an imbalance here in perception. What we think Kansas City might be turning back into and what we think of Dallas off of that win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas has to be thrilled with holding Kansas City to just 14 points in the first half. Now, some of it self-inflicted wounds via the penalty for Kansas City. But again, this Dallas defense is getting better. I don't care how you slice it. Kansas City with 14 points and trailing in the first half is something that the Dallas Cowboy and their fans love.
You have to. And I'm just sitting here thinking, what's going on pre-game leading up to things for the Dallas and their prep for their opponent. And then what happens in-game that the coaches are telling them, can the Dallas defense just start in the second quarter every game instead of starting the way that they're starting the first quarter? We saw this last week against the Eagles, Brady, where the Eagles scored 3 straight touchdowns, and midway through the second quarter, they scored their third or wherever it was, and then scored the rest of the game. And the Dallas defense turned things up to another level. That's kind of what's happened here. 2 touchdowns from the Chiefs to start in the first quarter, and then none since then. So let's shift that second quarter energy and effort to the first quarter for Dallas. I will say, if we just take a look at some of the props that we spoke about pregame, let's get a halftime update on them. I like Kelsey over 54.5 receiving yards. He's at 25. His live line was 54. You like Mahomes over 21.5 rushing yards. He's sitting at 20. His current in-game number is up at 33.5, which is good to see. There's no in-game number, at least on FanDuel, for rush attempts for Javonte Williams. He's 7 of 18, though, 7 carries for 18 yards. So, if he were to double that, he wouldn't get at that over 16.5. And just frankly, he's being remarkably inefficient right now, only 18 yards on 7 carries.
Yeah, just 2.6 per rush there for Javonte Williams. About the only thing that might be a little bit unsettling for you with that bet is if Dallas continues to pull away here in the second half, and then they just feed the ball to Williams to try and kill the clock. But right now, you're right. So far, so good. You double that number. He still doesn't get over 16.5. So I think you're looking pretty good so far. Davis has carried the ball 3 times. Turpin carried it once for 7 yards as well. Dak Prescott has not carried it yet. I'm looking for a possible Dak anytime touchdown at better than 7-1. I've got Mahomes for an anytime touchdown as well at plus 450. The Dallas Cowboys lead the Kansas City Chiefs 17-14 at halftime. Tom, I mentioned this after, I think last week was the first time I had mentioned it, because I think what we kind of saw building with the Dallas Cowboys really came to fruition in that second half and that win over the Philadelphia Eagles. And now we're starting to see it a little bit here on Thanksgiving Day. You got to really start to tip your hat, I think, to Brian Schottenheimer. This guy's doing a pretty darn good job. And I feel like he's probably the best, what I've seen as the most positive I've felt about a Dallas Cowboys head coach since prior to Jason Garrett. I never thought Garrett was much of anything, and I certainly didn't like Mike McCarthy. Brian Schottenheimer, in my mind right now, looks better than both of them.
He does, and we can really turn this back to a couple weeks ago when they played on Monday night versus the Raiders, and that's when they got this defensive help. And everyone's going to say, it was the Raiders. Who cares what they did? But you need that as the first step along the process. Sometimes you need a cupcake matchup in order to get the ball rolling. And that was the first step. And now we're seeing it in, last week against the Eagles. And the offense has been, kind of cruising along the entire season, right? They're scoring 28, 30 points a game. Dak's been fantastic. Specifically, they've been fantastic at home. But they're getting into form, really, Brady, where you need the easy matchups just because you have to build that self-confidence. But now you're truly being tested, and you're looking pretty good. Good against the Eagles, pretty good against the Chiefs, at least through the first half. How the second half plays out, do we see the traditional Andy Reid second half adjustments and that shines, or do we see this Dallas defense continue to do their work and do their part?
I want to take a look here. I'm trying to find it for Coach of the Year awards. Here we go. Coach of the Year. Mike Vrabel, a big favorite at minus 210. Yeah, no surprise there. Shane Steichen plus 470. Ben Johnson is somebody that certainly sticks out. 9-1 seems like a pretty good price on a guy who's absolutely turned the Bears around. Now, you can argue if you think they're any good or not. No matter what, he's done a great job with them at first place in the division. Mike McDonald at 10-1. Sean McVay. Kyle Shanahan is a candidate as well. Seemingly doing it with smoke and mirrors with the 49ers at 35-1. But Brian Schottenheimer, 65-1. I don't think it's a bad flyer to take. If Dallas all of a sudden goes on a run, who knows? They're 5-5 right now. If they get to 10 wins, your 65-1 ticket on Schottenheimer, he's got to at least get a couple votes.
I would push back saying that Vrabel winning the AFC, getting number 1 seed, would almost lock it up for him, but I don't mind the look.
Yep. That's probably the only thing that keeps Vrabel out of it, if they don't get the number 1 seed possibly. We'll see. We'll continue that discussion on the other side.
Oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. Welcome back in. It is in-game live game day here on SportsGrid. Brady Kannon and Tom Vecchio with you on this Thanksgiving afternoon. We appreciate you tuning in, and we are very thankful for you tuning in on this Thanksgiving day. A lot of great football, a lot of great college basketball. They're at the half right now in Dallas. The Cowboys on top. They went off as 3.5-point underdogs. They're up at the break by 3 points, 17-14 over the Kansas City Chiefs. Tom, you and I were talking about Coach of the Year, and I was kind of making a case for Brian Schottenheimer. He's certainly a long shot. He's 65-1, and it would take a minor miracle for him to get there. But if what is happening with Dallas kind of continues here, this improvement that we've seen the last few weeks, really kind of ever since that loss to the Arizona Cardinals. I think that was a Sunday night or a Monday night, I can't recall, but that was a pretty ugly defeat. Ever since then, they've really turned it around 180 degrees if they get the win here today. They've got a very tough schedule coming up. If they're able to reel off, how many games do they have left? 11. They've got, 6 games left? I mean, if they're able to go like 5-1, and let's say the Patriots stub their toe and lose a few games here coming up, he's got a shot. But you're right. I mean, Vrabel, guy to beat right now. Ben Johnson, I think, is going to be tough to overcome, although I do believe the Chicago Bears will come back down to earth. Kyle Shanahan's a long shot at this point. Shane Steichen, what are the Colts going to do? They've been leaking oil a little bit as of late. All these teams, I think, are kind of set up for some regression, where the Cowboys, conversely, are set up for some progress.
They certainly are. And looking at their upcoming schedule, so obviously in game with the Chiefs right now, they play at the Lions on December 4th. At the Lions, that's a huge game next week. Vikings, Chargers, at Commanders, at Giants. So, Vikings have certainly had their struggles with J.J. McCarthy, who looks absolutely terrible, and I think that's kind of putting it lightly. The Chargers game, they play at home versus the Chargers. So that game, I would say it's a pretty close line. Chargers are viewed positively among the public. Let's call it a 2.5 or 1.5 point spread at home for the Cowboys. The Commanders, potentially without Daniels, I don't think they should be bringing him back. And then the Giants, we don't know what we're going to get from them, but those are 2 winnable games at the end of the season. So Vikings, Commanders, Giants, I would say are winnable games for them. Chargers are a coin flip game. So they could realistically pick up 3, if not 4 more wins to close out the season, putting them in a good spot. I would have to say they need to make the playoffs in order for the coach to be in consideration. And also, again, if you expect the Pats to take a step back, that would help the conversation overall for Vrabel not winning it.
Yeah, this really the toughest part of that schedule for Dallas. They have the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Detroit Lions, and then I think it's Minnesota in between, and then the Los Angeles Chargers. So 4 out of the next 5 or 4 out of the last 5, very difficult. But you're right. They've gotten through the first 2. If they get through this one today, or they've gotten through the first 1, if they get through this one today, and then again on against the Lions. You never know. That bet doesn't look so bad. 65 at this point may be the best number you get. Might not cash the ticket. Might be the best number you get. Let's take a look at the night game coming up a little bit later this evening, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, and that will be in Baltimore. The Ravens hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have lost 4 in a row. The Ravens have won 5 in a row, and they are atop the division, tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they are the favorite to win this division, are the Baltimore Ravens. Ever since Lamar Jackson came back, this team has been on a run. The schedule is not that difficult the rest of the way. And Joe Burrow is back in action for the Cincinnati Bengals, but we talked about it a little bit earlier. Now, the quarterback is the most important position on the field, but he doesn't play defense, and that is really the problem for these Cincinnati Bengals is just an awful defense. And, I would feel better about Burrow coming back, Tom, with a full complement of weapons, but he's got Jamar Chase. He doesn't have T. Higgins, who is still out with a concussion, and I think that's a big drop-off. If he doesn't have both of those weapons available, and we haven't even seen that much adjustment in the line. It's still 7 points in favor of Baltimore, despite Burrow coming back under center.
It really is, and I'm seeing that number move back up to 7.5. So, people are just buying into the Ravens. They're buying into the same thing, saying like, listen, it's from a fan perspective, it's good to see Burrow back. Just seeing a great quarterback back is awesome for the league overall. But that's not enough when the offense isn't fully healthy and the defense is absolutely dreadful. It is, as Mark said, is one of the worst ever. So that's not enough to push the Bengals forward. What we've seen from the Ravens as of late with Lamar back, I'm going to say is good, but it's not great. Trouncing the Dolphins on that Thursday night game, it doesn't really impress me. It's a nice win, but it's the Dolphins. The Vikings are a good win. Beating the Browns, it's a divisional matchup. They have a great defense, but their offense isn't a whole lot. And then last week versus the Jets, Brady, 23-10. Their team total last week was 29.5, and you can't score. You can't come close to that. You're a full touchdown away against the Jets. It's great to see them clamp things down on defense and only allow 10 points, but it really wasn't that impressive when it's all said and done. So Bengals, Steelers, Bengals, Pats, Packers, Steelers is the remaining schedule for the Ravens. This is looking pretty good for them. No wonder they've been favorites since Lamar came back, even when they were sub 500.
Yeah, very division game heavy there the rest of the way for the Ravens. Like you say, we'll play the Steelers and then the Bengals again just in the next couple of weeks. Taking a look at the college basketball here, we often talk about how it's a good idea to bet underdogs in the first half. Oftentimes they're underdogs for a reason and they can't last the entire length of a game, and eventually the favorite finds their way. That looks like the case here in Florida, where the Miami Hurricanes led BYU at the half. BYU is a big favorite, 7.5 or 8-point favorite. A good team, a team many feel is a top 10, top 15 team in the college basketball landscape this season. 49-40. BYU has really come out on a tear in the second half. 49-40, they lead Miami. 64-48, Washington over Nevada. And Michigan State, 64-52, trouncing.
Oh boy, oh boy. This is not going to go away, folks. This betting scandal that involved Terry Rozier, that involved Jonte Porter last year, and then obviously with Chauncey Billups getting involved and stuff like that, this is not going away. This is not good. And this is not the end of this scandal.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid. We are back, and they are back as well. They're back from halftime, the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs. We've talked about it here throughout the day. The Kansas City Chiefs starting with the ball in the second half. They start trailing the Dallas Cowboys 17-14. Dallas with the lead after a half of a football game, and now Kansas City out to midfield already at the Dallas 50-yard line, right at the 50-yard line. 2nd and 6. They remain 1.5-point favorites. No change in the line there. No change in the total as well at 57.5. Tom, we'll get back to the in-game action here as Kansas City starts their first drive of the second half, but I want to wrap up on the nightcap here. We were talking about the Ravens and the Bengals coming up, and I correct myself. It was a 5:20 start. I said 5:30, 5:20 Pacific, 8:20 Eastern in Baltimore. I actually got involved in the prop market here, played a couple of prop bets. We know how bad, we've talked about how bad that Cincinnati defense is, and they are dead last in many categories, one of which is how they defend tight ends. So no, not Mark Andrews, but I went with Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely, hopefully he's likely to get over 26.5 receiving yards. I've always liked this kid out of UNC Charlotte, I believe, the Chanticleers. Good player, a lot of high hopes coming in. He's done very, very well. Has never really blossomed into the star that I thought he might be, but he'd probably be the number 1 on a lot of other teams. He is just kind of the understudy for Mark Andrews, the perennial All-Pro there in Baltimore. And then I'm going to fade Joe Burrow, Tom. I'm going to go under 257.5 passing yards for Burrow. I think the number's probably a little bit inflated. It just feels to me like everything is a little bit inflated with Joe Burrow on his return because obviously people are excited about that, but the odds makers know that. And so I think everything is probably built up a little too high when reality might be that this guy hasn't played for nearly half the season and he might be a little bit rusty.
Buying into a player when he first comes back is tough. I don't know if people are expecting Joe Burrow to be Joe Burrow, but it may take him a game or two. It may take him a half. It may take him a 3, whatever it is. So if he is inefficient for some of that time, you're immediately behind the 8 ball on an already inflated and very publicly bet line. So assuming someone on the over. But to your point, the under looks like the right side because any amount of inefficiency, any amount of closing line value that you get based on a high number is always going to be good for you. When it comes to Isaiah Likely, you're right. He probably should be a starting tight end and is really just held there because of Mark Andrews. But the talent has always been there for him when it's all said and done. And to your point, the Bengals are dreadful, specifically when it comes to defending opposing tight ends. We have routinely seen tight ends go, for crazy games against them. We saw Hunter Henry have a huge game along with Hooper for the Pats, both of them last week. So to see that and buy into him having a big game is huge. The Chiefs are punting on their first drive. Mahomes did get a little bit banged up. He was walking off the field a little bit limpy after getting sacked, but the Chiefs are punting to start the third, and that puts the Cowboys now as 1.5-point favorites.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And we've kind of been talking about it all night long that very poor Cowboys defense has seen recent improvement. And here they go again, stopping Kansas City. I think it was basically a 3-and-out. No, they did get a first down because they moved it out to midfield. But that's when it stalled. And now they punt it back to Dallas, who, by the way, a great punt. Dallas will start on their own 1-yard line. So this is dangerous territory and very much possibly another rushing attempt for Javonte Williams, Tom.
That may be the case. They're mixing him in, but 7 of 18. Like I said, I like this. I like where I am to start their first possession in the third with 12-18 left. 54.5, more importantly, is the total. We're not that far off from the original number of 53, 52, whatever it might have been, wherever you got it. Brady, for a game that looked like it was cruising to the over, I'm not sure that's the case anymore.
Yeah, and we always say that, or at least I do, trust the original number. It's getting ever closer to that original number where it was. Like you say, when I started looking today, it was 52 or 52.5. When it closed, it was 53 or 53.5. Right now, the live number at 54.5. Just about 2.5 minutes into the third quarter, 12.5 minutes left to go in the third. First 10 Cowboys with the lead, 17-14 over the Kansas City Chiefs. They forced Kansas City to punt on their first possession out of the second half, and Dallas will begin on offense from its own 1-yard line. So tough spot. Dak and company looking to go 99 yards and add this 3-point margin over Kansas City and make it 3 victories in a row.